It's been a while, Lucas, so you have to show me something. Show me something. Turn around. I want to see your gunda. Put on some music and put on something. Oh, yes. Oh, 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 yes.
Nesse mundo sem
So, hey, Lucas, welcome to our video. How are you doing?
I'm great, Jay. Thank you so much for having me and thinking of me for this lovely interview.
Oh,
Awesome.
well, you are so popular. We thought we should start with you. So you're always very good. Tell us what are the top tips to be a very good lead, especially when it comes to social dancing.
My first one, and I think is one that gets overlooked infinitely, is learning to dance just within yourself. And what I mean by that is usually when we come into dance classes, that might be the first time you ever try dancing. So you don't even know where the one is half the time. Take that extra time to learn to dance within your own self, knowing where your pressure points are within your feet, and just being able to know how to go from 1 to 8 without having an issue, and thinking about what you need to do and lead, because leading in general is another technique and skill in itself, if that makes sense.
During this time of lockdown, it's even more important. I have been doing your classes, and unfortunately, I don't have a dance partner to dance with me. But that is not stopping me. I have done, I can't believe, hundreds of hours of training in the lockdown with you, with Sarah, with Eddie, with Master Pechu, and so on. Because as you've already said, it should not stop you doing your basic steps over and over again and understand. And you don't need a dance partner. Pechu told me that your best dance partner is your broomstick. You can dance with your broomstick, and there you go. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So that's something that gets overlooked, obviously. And now, especially, this is the best time to really hone into those skill sets even before you get to dancing with another human. Number 2, pretty straightforward, but understanding your basics of leading and just mastering those fundamental steps. It's almost a cliche now. It's almost a meme that we have to say master your basics, but it's a reason why it's so high on my list. And what I mean high is it's like it should be the first thing you start doing when you're learning and continue on doing. And what I mean by that is, again, really taking those fundamentals and not just jumping on a fresh new move every 5 seconds. Like, really nail those few basics, and that's what you really need to enjoy your dance. Kizomba, I feel, is probably one of the few dances that you can effectively just dance basics and enjoy the entire time, I find, in my opinion.
And I have to agree with you. I mean, as a follower, they absolutely enjoy. They don't need to anticipate the moves. They're not anxious. They don't know what's not happening, and you're leading them perfectly. They calm and they enjoy the connection and music, you know?
My number 3 is a kind of a triple whammy. Be really in tune with listening to the advice your teacher can give you. And sometimes it's very light. Like, most teachers will do their best to not point out anybody in particular and say, you're doing X, Y, Z, and you need to do X, Y, Z. I mean, there's some teachers that do that, and that's awesome that they can give that kind of feedback. However, even the slightest advice, even if it's overall in the class, take it on board. Even if you think you're doing it, do it anyway. Like, take it on board. I also suggest taking the advice from your follower, because a lot of the time your follower, sometimes like the teacher, not always, but sometimes like the teacher, does know how they feel in their body that doesn't adjust well to them when you're doing a certain move. So it's probably, it's best to be aware of them and go, if they're giving me advice, don't take it personally. I know as a leader, a lot of times, especially when you start, and you're dancing with a follower who's been doing it for a while, they'll be like, doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? It's something off. Doesn't necessarily mean take it to heart. Just take it on board and go, okay, if it's something that's reoccurring, I might actually have to take that into consideration. The other thing is reassurance. And what I mean by reassurance is when I start, even now, doing someone's class and I'm with someone who I could probably tell that their level is a little bit on the beginner side or a little bit more intermediate, I still ask them if the move was done okay. Like, did I do this okay? Did it feel good to you? I always do a reassurance, you know what I mean? And I ask for that reassurance back from another teacher or from that partner, you know what I mean? And that kind of reassurance gives safety in the class. If it builds a trust, if that makes sense.
It does. It brings to another question for me. And this is something like something to think about. Wouldn't that also show or portray to your dance partner that you are not confident, asking feedback all the time?
It's different when you're saying to the person that you can't do a move, as opposed to
have I done it correctly?
Doing the move, and you ask them, how do they feel about that move? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, I've done that move. How do you feel? Does it feel okay to you? It's like, good. Okay, sweet. Like, you're giving that reassurance. You're getting that reassurance back. And let's say that you ask it in a confident way, let's say, then you won't be going like, oh, I don't know if I did it wrong or something like that. So of course, giving some confidence into it does help, but there's nothing wrong with showing a vulnerable side to asking questions as well. Going to actual socials where it's just party, there's no class, I feel that's probably one of the best places to learn. You can take infinite amount of classes, but if you don't actually start practicing what you're doing, you're not going to get too far, and you're not going to be understanding the feeling of different people and connections as you go along. So definitely going into socials, 100% necessary. However, on the back of that, I would say when you are at the socials, you really need to be aware of that surrounding, be aware of your partner that you're dancing with, because if you're just going willy-nilly in your dance, you're going to bump into people. Like Kizomba is one of those kind of bumper car scenarios. It can really happen, especially if you get too into it and you can just dance a little bit and you go boom, 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 and you don't notice. And especially for us going backwards, we can't see where we're going. Our partner in most cases, they'll close their eyes because they want to connect with you. It's not necessarily the best way to go about it for a follower all the time, but in many cases, they just want to enjoy, so they close their eyes. Leaders, it's a bit harder for us to just close our eyes and start moving all around the place. So we really need to be aware of the surroundings and be aware of what moves you can do in a space. In New Zealand and in Australia, we have a little bit more freedom to do bit more grandiose style of moves if we want to, right? However, in Europe or in any other place that Kizomba is super popular, you don't have that much space. You have tiny little space.
Totally agree with you. It's always important to understand the social. I keep talking about it all the time. You dance to the dance floor, you are dancing on to the space you have, to the partner you're dancing with, to their ability. You don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. It's not a place to show off. Kizomba is not a dance to show off anyway. Unlike salsa or bachata, it's an inward dance. You want to rather have a good connection than the people looking at you. In fact, somebody told me that the best Kizomba dance is somebody should look at you and saying, "Are they even moving? Are they even doing anything?" You know? So that sort of thing. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's one of my points as well that's coming up. So my point number 5 would be being aware of the level of your follower, the safety that you can bring to that follower, and obviously the respect, because a lot of the times, you know, let's say that we have just started learning and we're dancing with a beginner who's, again, could be even in just the standards. So they're just trying it out and we've learned a new step and we're just going bonkers with it. it's not a great feeling. Just because we want to test out a flashy new move to everybody that we find doesn't necessarily work. So we always have to be aware. And again, this comes back to using your basics, starting off with your primeros and your half tones and your two steps. Is all the connections lining up? Okay, this person, you can test a little bit more and see where else that person can go. Now, you might be feeling like you're still in the beginner stages, and your partner that you're dancing with is levels above you. What's something that you can do? Well, one thing I do is I create space for that person. So usually that person, and especially in Kizomba, they will use a lot of tarashinha movements, some isolations if they do a lot of tarasho or urban style, and create that space, give that space and play with them with that space. You don't have to control everyone all the time on the dance floor. And that's what I mean by safety, the level and the respect you have for your partner. And obviously, you know, when you're approaching someone on the dance scene, it's not always expected that you just grab someone and take them and then just leave them on the dance floor. Okay. I mean, there's different etiquettes for different ways. And it's not necessarily just because you're a leader that you have to be always attack on the attack, getting a new dance partner. There's chances are, you know, if you develop enough to become a beautiful dance leader, most of the time followers will come for you for a dance anyway. And I'm not saying just be like, oh, I'm just waiting here with a coffee and waiting for it. You know, it's a bit of give and take. So yeah.
Oh, no, amazing. Look, I'm a very, I mean, you probably have one thing to cover anyway. It's musicality. For me, musicality is the most important thing. And there are parts of the music where it goes quiet and you really don't have to do anything as such. You can just enjoy that quietness. You can let your dance partner, depending upon their level, to do their own addition to the music. Because musicality for me, people listen to it differently, right? And interpret it to it differently. So just giving that follower the chance to add their own flavor is very, very important for me, because ultimately dancing is dancing of two people, not like you are a puppet master and you're pretty much controlling them follower all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a great segue to my next part.
I am a little bit ahead of you. We both on the same track. Yeah, exactly. That's good.
That happened straight into it, was listening and enjoying the music and expressing that. Because again, that musicality, like you said, super important. And almost always, again, it's like a meme now, where what's the choice? Flashy moves or musicality, like simplicity and musicality. And always the follower is gonna choose for that. I would choose for that because you're dancing for hours and hours and hours. That's the one that's going to last you the entire time. And it's just the most rewarding. Yes, add a few little, you know, saborcito flashy moves here and there, but drench it in flashy moves just doesn't bode well. And they can see that you're really doing it as an external, you know, plaything, as opposed to being there with your partner. You're not connected at all. You're not connected to the music or your partner. In saying that, listen to as much music as you can. You know, I tend to listen to music in very specific times of the day. I have my morning music, I have my evening, and so on. So, you know, pick a time, especially if you're just starting out. Listen to as much music as you can, get a different feel of that music, and adjust your style to that music. I'm a big advocate for style in terms of what style to be dancing when it's being played. So if you're listening to more authentic style of Kizomba, my advice would be to dance in that way. You know, if it's Semba, dance Semba. If it's Kizomba, dance Kizomba. If it's Tarashinha, dance Tarashinha. Of course, there's little gray areas that you can play around in. Like Tarashinha and Gerosuk is the broadest spectrum of where you can combine multiple styles in one go. And that's amazing. Sometimes pick a style and just as a personal skill, develop that in just going, okay, Tarashinha, just Tarashinha the whole time. Or let's try just Kizomba in itself without having any extra flashy moves. And let's see how well I go with that. Like all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's how I would express being playful and listening and respecting that music that you're doing. We are tip number 7. It's good vibes, by the way. Good vibes. So here's an interesting one. And again, we don't take this on board enough. Like we take it for granted often. Is listening to your own body and your mind naturally while you're dancing. Now that could be a double-edged sword, because like before, if you have a lack of confidence, you will be restricting yourself during that dance. You're like, oh, I didn't do that move right. Oh, and what I mean is take it on board to be, to trust yourself to do the moves that you do know, and just go ahead with that. Like if you haven't practiced a move in a while, just don't do that move, or do part of it to get it through until it feels natural and your body's like, okay, I get this move now, I can do it naturally, all this kind of stuff. But also be aware that you might feel like you're super confident or too confident and super natural at a move that you might actually not be that natural or good at. And you could actually hurt someone. And again, this comes back to being aware of your partner, of your surroundings, and of yourself. So this is, a big one in mind. Like that's why it's up there on my number 7, because yeah, at this stage of your leading journey, you do want to start having enough confidence to believe in yourself, but also bring yourself back down to earth when you feel like maybe that move or that particular way of using that move doesn't work right now. Let's try something else, or with someone else, if that makes sense.
I totally agree with you. And also I blended to your tip number 6, basically that the move goes with the music. They are kind of hand to hand. You can't just do a move if it doesn't fit into the music. So
Sure.
slow part of the music requires different moves and everything. And too many times I see people just doing their saida or basics where the music is just died down. And I'm like, why can't you just stand still and just enjoy the connection? So and for me, it is to add also the emotions to it. So it's not just a move, it's also the emotions. If you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel loved, you feel passionate, and the body would just match that emotions, your move would look more natural and real and connected to the music. So it's not just a move, it's the music and your behavior or your expression. Very, very important.
Yeah. Number 8, again, cliche, but never stop learning, guys. And I don't mean that just by going to other people's Kizomba, Samba, or anything like that kind of class. I mean, don't stop learning in general. Take completely different classes. Take African dance classes, because that helps you control your body more for them when you want to do things like Tarashinha or even Samba. Learn some hip hop classes that you can end up taking into your urban or your Tarasho classes. Just take spirituality classes, like I've done so many, that help me connect with my partner and be able to feel more about my awareness of what's going on. So it's not just about take infinite amount of Kizomba dance classes, because there's really only so much you can keep going and not really expand more. Like if you want to have that real creative juices flowing for a leader, especially, you need to go outside of all of those things that you probably didn't, have an idea. Ballet, tango, contemporary. I've tried contemporary as well. So, and you can always bring elements back into your dancing in this way. My number 9, and there's a reason why it's so high on my list, is because the appreciation for the less is more ideology can't be stated enough. You will last longer in your entire life to be doing less in your dancing than you are to be throwing moves around constantly or being the most, even if you're just doing musicality and all this kind of stuff, which is amazing. But just imagine that you're constantly hitting every single beat for every single song right throughout the night. It gets exhausting. Like my brain melts after maybe the 15th Urban Kiss song with all the kind of synchronous. It goes crazy. So what I mean by less is more is appreciate those moments. Like after I have that kind of time with such heavy musicality, I appreciate when Kizomba comes on and I can just do basic 2 and basic 3 for another 15, 20 minutes. That's break time for me. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can be more expressive with it and more complicated, but enjoy the little things, the small, like, you don't understand how happy I feel when I listen to like a Don Kikash song or an Eduardo Paim, just to chill, just to relax. And that's how you just enjoy the dance more, in my opinion. And then your follower will obviously enjoy that because you're just like, man, I'm just chill. Like, they're so good, especially if they've been having to listen to every single musicality little thing that's going on. They just want to chill as well. So don't think that you need to give your follower a billion things or the most magical, constant, one-way street feeling. If you can go from exceptional musicality and flashy moves and hero or whatever, best Rasha ever, to I can chill with some Kizomba, some virgula here, there's some corredinho there. Great. That's, for me, is a magical feeling. I don't know about you, but for me, makes my night sometimes. My number 10, and it can be considered controversial, but I don't think it should be at this stage for us. I think one of the most crucial things a leader can do is learn to be a follower. Learn what it means. Yeah, exactly. Learn what it means to be in the shoes of the person that you're taking around. You know, you can't be an exceptional leader if you're not an exceptional follower, in my opinion. This is why followers, women in general, are generally better dancers in the terms of they can go from learning the entirety of being a follower to then going into being a leader. And sure, you can argue that it isn't the same, but it doesn't matter. It's not about being the same. It's how much you can appreciate what the other person goes through. This is, again, an empathy style of thinking. And in my opinion, that made me a better leader. It's learn what your follower has to go through. Learn all the intricacies. Sometimes some of my best dances I've ever had is dancing with a leader. It feels amazing. I don't know for you, but for me, I just love it. I love dancing with leaders.
You don't know me enough, but anybody who knows me in Oakland, I love following. I'm always following. I absolutely enjoy that because it gives you another different view of for me, it's also self-analysis to see what was that lead trying to do, which didn't work for me, and how could I use that to my advantage, and what would I want to see my leaders doing so I can then implement when I'm leading it as well. Very, very important. I always tell that being a follower or trying to follow every now and then is very, very important. Yeah. But on the same note, Lucas, if I see you next, you have to save me a dance or maybe two.
Oh, 100%. It'd be just me and you the whole night. It's fine.
Oh, all right. I'm flying in. I'm just going to look at what is the next flight to Brisbane. Oh, no, definitely.
Guys.
All right. And just because I love you, I would let you give you one more tip because I know you got so many. Add one more bonus tip.
A bonus tip. Oh, I get one. Oh, what would you have as an additional?
For me, it's more of a social dancing. So for me, it's very, very important to not, first of all, reject a dance. So I feel personally, it takes a lot of courage for a girl to come and ask you for a dance.
Sure.
And it's very important for us to, as a leader, to make sure that we don't say no. If you're on the dance floor, this is my theory. If you're on the dance floor, you are dancing, and don't be rude. Sort of give people eye contact and be nice to them. Like and usually be the first person to go and ask a lady for a dance. Ladies love being asked.
I totally agree to that aspect. But there is a point where it's like, okay, come back to me, or I'll do my best to find you, but I do need to take
Okay.
I need to take 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the times, like we're getting older, my friends. So eventually we're not going to be able to dance nearly as much. But you know what? Now mentioning it, because now my brain started to think again. This would probably be my last point for a leader. And I would have to say, take care of your physical self, as in your hygiene. Make sure you come as clean as you can. It doesn't really matter so much on how well you dress. That doesn't matter. It's knowing that you can hygienically look after yourself, spray, mints, even if you don't think, like you just came out of the shower and you thought, well, I'm fine. Effectively, you still want to get some spray, have a mint, and check that constantly, because that's only going to last so long. If you've been dancing for a couple of hours,
Yep.
check in on that. And look, if you're a chronic sweat, I don't know if I'm saying it right, chronic sweater.
Sweaty. Yeah, I
If you're
am.
chronically sweaty, yes, right. So maybe have some additional shirts, especially if you want to be feeling comfortable and you want the other person to be feeling comfortable.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Thank you so much for your time. It was really valuable. I
Sure.
mean, obviously, we wanted to hear this over and over again. And again, best tips for us guys. And thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you so much
I'll
for
talk to you
having me,
soon.
Jay.
Okay, then.
Thanks.
Cheers.
See
Bye.
ya.
Viewers, if you enjoyed this video, like our video and subscribe to our channel. There's more video like this coming your way. And look after yourself, stay well, and see you on the dance floor. Bye for now.